The funny thing is, endorsements are actually becoming more of indictments. If somebody is getting endorsed by all the who's who in DC and the deep state, and they're trying to drag their guy across the board, across the goal line, that's your answer. Stop listening to what people are saying. Start looking at what people are doing and the alliances that exist. Whether that's endorsements or dark money, they really go hand in hand. And what we have in this country is we really have a syndicate almost style of being able to allow for elections to be meddled with because dark money is the root of all evil. And for everybody that wants to keep flapping their gums about term limits, I'm for term limits, but you know what the real problem is? Term limits is the weed that we see. The root of the evil is the dark money in the PACs that nobody has no idea where this money is coming from. We're playing with, one hand tied behind our back, and the deep state can say, yes, I'm going to appoint you, I'm going to anoint you, and the election is really a formality because we're going to give you a lot of dark money. Nobody knows who it's coming from, and we're going to roll out all of our endorsements, and now you can kiss the ring and be our puppet for life.
Right.
And
Like an Abbott endorsement and a Trump endorsement. And I started talking about Trump endorsements. For example, Teixeira was endorsed by Trump, the ball player, to replace Chip Roy's seat. And against Trey Trainer. Who is this guy? He's a baseball player. Well, someone asked Trump about him and said, hey, you endorsed Teixeira. And he's like, who? So President Trump doesn't even know who this man is. The machine around him is selling Trump endorsements. That's what I believe to pay per play. You want to donate money into our PAC, we'll give you an endorsement. And President Trump doesn't even know who it is. And so MAGA needs to understand, and America First should understand that because there's a Trump endorsement on there, doesn't mean that Trump even knows who this person is.
Money makes the world go round, but that's unfortunate, but it's true. So we really got to take a hard look. I really recommend everybody to take a look at who is funding what campaign. Look at the finances, look at the PAC money. We got to be astute in being able to understand exactly where these PAC dollars are coming from, because at the end of the day, if you elect dark money, your next congressman is Congressman Dark Money.
This is Stuart Rose filling in for Alex on the Alex Jones Show. We are facing a critical moment in our country. We, the people, have got to realize how bad things really are. And like Patrick Henry said, be willing to see the worst and then provide for it and focus on defeating the deep state. I want to bring on a representative, or hopefully a representative for Congress, Mr. Paul Bondar. I'm wearing his T-shirt because I'm working for his campaign, full disclosure. I endorsed Doc Pete Chambers for governor because I know he's a warrior, he's going to fight. I endorsed Trey Trainer in District 21 for Congress for Texas because I know he's going to fight. And then I was honored to endorse Paul Bondar for the same reason. I believe that he'll be a true champion. And I work for Ron Paul's. My standards are pretty high. If you're not going to be an actual another Ron Pauler, I got no interest in you. But I think Paul has the potential to do that. So welcome to the show, Paul. Good to see you again, brother.
Well, thank you, Stuart. I'm honored to be here.
You bet. So let's talk about what's happening in Texas and our nation. So your response to the terrorist attack in Austin.
We got to be very vigilant. Unfortunately, we've had open borders unchecked for all those years with the Biden administration. And frankly, it was treason, frankly. And now we have sleeper cell type people that we have no idea, they're unvetted. And here's the deal. If I get on a domestic flight as a natural born citizen, I have to give my ID. They scan my face. They do biometrics. They know everywhere I'm going as a natural citizen. Yet we have millions of people in this country. We have no idea who they are, where they come from, what they're up to. And so a couple things, we need to be vigilant. We need to be aware of this. And the other thing is, I just hope this doesn't turn into, and I'm not saying it is for sure, a false flag crisis situation where all of a sudden we have an act of terror in this country. And then the solution that government always sells its people for stability and freedom and safety is to give up our freedom. Now, we saw that with 9/11 with the Patriot Act, and we've seen it time and time again. And I'm concerned, and I'm kind of ringing the bell here to hope that people are aware. I believe in that we need to be on alert, and we can't let our guard down. But let's let's guard against the potential here because the solution is never government taking over our freedoms under the Constitution. That is not a long-term
Amen.
solution.
Amen. I think it's beyond a doubt now, and Alex's audience is very savvy. They know this was an intentional invasion. They know this is enemies foreign and domestic. You've got domestic traitors, and I count Governor Abbott among them. How do you feel about Abbott and what he's been doing in Texas when it comes to the border and when it comes to all the mosques being built?
Well, for a long time, I was drinking the Kool-Aid that Governor Abbott was doing a good job. But at the end of the day, as a business owner or a football coach or anybody, you have to take accountability for what goes on with your organization or your team. And Texas needs to be number one in football, but Texas is number one instead with mosques. And this happened under Abbott's watch. And I think, there needs to be some level of accountability that ensues for this. We're in a Texas is number one in the United States in mosques. And if we
It's
lose
330
Texas,
right now, right? Is it
yeah. And if
360? What's the latest number? Yeah, it's
yeah,
like two more months get built.
there's like two mosques I think being built every what is it couple weeks that are going up. The accelerated number is just unbelievable, and I think a lot of people were unaware of this. And I'll tell you, it's in our backyard. For people that say, hey, it doesn't affect us, a 10th grade student named Marco up in Wiley ISD broke a story to one of my staffers a couple weeks ago. And we talked to his parents and he said, hey, let's do a video. And we put a video out that probably had, with all the different forwards and shared videos, it probably had close to, we're saying about 3 million views. And what happened was the Wiley ISD was handing out Qurans and different religious, Islam type Habibs or whatever they put on the girls' heads, and they're violating state and school policy with this. And the principal
They had Muslims going into the schools with the blessings of the teachers, leftist teachers, conditioning the other students to wear Habibs and to read the Quran. So they're allowed to proselytize inside schools. But if a Christian went in there, what would happen to a Christian?
Well, I think people would be screaming bloody, bloody, bloody hell that, separation of church and state, separation of church and state. We know what would happen if a Christian group went into a school during school hours and handed out Bibles and different religious type articles. We know that. And so what we have is we have a double standard. We have a double standard, and it's hypocrisy, and it's become an indoctrination issue for some of these places that are doing this. Where if we don't prevent, this is against state and school policy. And the principal said, well, we just, we were unaware. We're going to investigate. We were unaware. Come on. You're telling me you don't know what's going on in your own school? What if it was a shooter that went into the school? You're going to be unaware. And so gaslighting ensues because nobody wants to take responsibility.
Right. Yeah, it's the red-green alliance that we've been talking about for so long. You've got the Marxists on one side, that's the red, and you got the jihadists on the other side, and they are linked up at the hip because they both hate Western civilization, they both hate Christianity and want to destroy it. So one thing I want to stress for the audience is that if Texas falls, America falls. And one reason, just one among many, is the Electoral College vote. If Texas goes blue, and they're all going to vote Democrat. If Texas goes blue and flips blue, you'll never see another Republican president again. So I'm sure that's on your mind too when it comes to what you see the ticking time bomb here in Texas.
Well, absolutely. And running for, a congressional seat, it's all about everybody representing their specific district. So we don't allow for, Texas to turn blue. And we have strong leadership, and everybody takes care of their particular lane and takes care of their particular area, so that we cannot allow for Texas to turn blue. Because look at the electoral votes. We already have how many votes coming out of California and New York, which are substantial, and Texas is our answer to balance that out. The Big Apple has become the rotten apple, and California it's about as wacky as they can get. So,
yeah, and California used to be Reagan territory. Yeah, California at one time was a Republican stronghold. So they are doing to us, to Texas, what they did to California, what they did to New York. It's the same play, and it is a red-green alliance. And so that's why both of us have endorsed Doc Pete Chambers. We believe that he will be the fighter we need. Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel, retired. I worked with him down after the Texas flood. He's phenomenal. He's a warrior. And you met him, looking right in the eye. What was your assessment of Doc Chambers?
Well, I view Doc Chambers as a no nonsense guy that's a patriot that is going to work for the average person. He's a military guy that served his country, but in a capacity not for showbiz. He is running. He's not a Hollywood politician, and there are Hollywood politicians that exist out there. And in my assessment and talking with Doc, you got to look at who's backing whom. When you're backed by the who's who in DC, it really kind of tips the hand of
Right.
what that politician is all about. And so the funny thing is, endorsements are actually becoming more of indictments. If somebody is getting endorsed by all the who's who in DC and the deep state, and they're trying to drag their guy across the board, across the goal line, that's your answer. Stop listening to what people are saying. Start looking at what people are doing and the alliances that exist. Whether that's endorsements or dark money, they really go hand in hand. And what we have in this country is we really have a syndicate almost style of being able to allow for elections to be meddled with, because dark money is the root of all evil. And for everybody that wants to keep flapping their gums about term limits, I'm for term limits, but you know what the real problem is? Term limits is the weed that we see. The root of the evil is the dark money in the PACs that nobody has no idea where this money is coming from. And so all the way across our nation, it's very, very simple. Most candidates like a Doc P. Chambers, they have to go out as a grassroots guy. They have to raise their money. They can get a maximum of $3,500 per donor, $7,000 per couple. Sounds like a lot of money, but do you know how many of those you have to be able to get when a PAC can go dump 2, 3, 4, 8, 10, 50 million, depending on the race against you? It's a stacked deck. And that's why if people don't understand that PACs with the unlimited ability to raise money, but more importantly, with the fact that they don't have to disclose and they can layer a PAC where we have absolutely no accountability or transparency on where this money is coming from, allows for people to essentially be able to play roulette where they can put money on a number of different candidates and they can elect and try to get in not just one candidate, but multiple candidates to serve some sort of agenda. And this is my assessment of what's going on in our electoral process. You have
Across the
people
country.
that are going, yes, go ahead, Stuart.
Oh, yes, that's going on across the country, not just here in Texas. But here in Texas, it's happening. I mean, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on the campaign, but you're dealing with a situation where your opponent, J.C. Yarborough, has been supported by 1.5 million in dark money that he will not disclose who they are, correct?
Yeah, is in the words of Jerry Maguire, show us the money. And if you're proud of the money and the money is coming from good conservative folks, you should be as proud to disclose those sources as much as you're proud to run around and talk about your endorsements. I mean, the PAC number is, just to be very clear, it's C009379094. It's Strong PAC, and the Strong PAC has donated just under $1.5 million to buy ads for Mr. Yarborough's campaign. And these are being purchased out of Dover, Delaware, in the DC Beltline area, Arlington, Virginia, and in Ohio. So I guess I'm really confused when we hear this narrative about, a seventh generation Texan. What's all this out of state buying doing, supporting somebody, and why do we not know who is behind this money? I've asked him several times on stage. He first told me, there was no dark money. And then he said, well, it's my endorsements that are doing it. I said, great, tell me who. Now he has not. He's stonewalled on this issue worse than Richard Nixon, because I think he can't tell or reveal who this money's coming from, because in reality, he's just one of many people. You look at Dela Cruz, he's another Air Force candidate that's running, and he's also got support from the Strong PAC as well. He has similar type endorsements. They drop around the same time. And you start looking at what's going on outside of just my specific race. It's interesting that it's anecdotal, but once you start examining that there's a printing press and an economy Costco scale type approach to these elections and how people play. And then guess what they do? They also put bets on the election in some of these different things so that they can get their guys to win, and then they can get their money back after they make these bets by dragging their guys across the goal line. And so this is really a slick investment, in my opinion, That's my opinion on how we're playing with, one hand tied behind our back, and the deep state can say, yes, I'm going to appoint you, I'm going to anoint you, and the election is really a formality because we're going to give you a lot of dark money. Nobody knows who it's coming from, and we're going to roll out all of our endorsements, and now you can kiss the ring and be our puppet for life.
Right.
And
Like an Abbott
that's
endorsement and a Trump endorsement. And Alex and I are talking about Trump endorsements. For example, Teixeira was endorsed by Trump, the ball player, to replace Chip Roy's seat. And against Trey Traynor. Who is this guy? He's a baseball player. Well, someone asked Trump about him and said, hey, you endorsed Teixeira. And he's like, who? So President Trump doesn't even know who this man is. The machine around him is selling Trump endorsements. That's what I believe to pay per play. You want to donate money into our PAC, we'll give you an endorsement. And President Trump doesn't even know who it is. And so MAGA needs to understand, and America First should understand that because there's a Trump endorsement on there, doesn't mean that Trump even knows who this person is. And so, and I think they understand that.
And that happened, and I'll give you another example. SD09, the state race. It's supposed to be a Republican stronghold plus 17, and it was a special election, right? That just occurred about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And the Republicans were supposed to just dominate in this race. And instead, we ended up losing. It was a 30-point swing. And there are articles by, I think it was the Washington Examiner and a couple other places that quoted Trump to saying exactly the same thing. Who is this person? I didn't even know. So I get it. Hey, I ran a business. I grew a business very large. A guy can't do everything. You delegate things to your staff. But like you were talking earlier, with Alex Jones, some of the advice that President Trump is getting on foreign policy is putting him in bad positions, and we're concerned about that. And I would say some of the advice that he's getting on some of these endorsements are really creating these endorsements to become watered down, and they really don't hold much value. As a matter of fact, we did a poll on that, and people are they're just not what they used to be. And that's a shame, because for somebody who's been a supporter of President Trump since the day I saw his 60 Minutes interview in 2015 and said, this is our guy, you just hate to see the endorsement process go down like this, where it's really not, you're endorsing people that are, unknowing to the president, it would appear. So with that, we have to really take a hard look at what's going on in our electoral cycles. We got to make sure, I always say, follow the money. Money makes the world go round, but that's unfortunate, but it's true. So we really got to take a hard look. I really recommend everybody to take a look at who is funding what campaign. Look at the finances, look at the PAC money. We got to be astute in being able to understand exactly where these PAC dollars are coming from, because at the end of the day, if you elect dark money, your next congressman is Congressman Dark Money. And you can come up with a candidate that can look really, really good on paper. And frankly, the opponent in my race looks great on paper, almost too good to be true. But except for the fact that really doesn't have much for talking points, doesn't really have a robust platform, and mainly is talking about just his endorsements, which I think we covered.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is that even if the guy intends to do good, if he was sent there by deep pockets, those deep pockets are going to want, there's no such thing as a free lunch, Tan Stoffel, no such thing as a free lunch. They're going to want, their pro quo once he's in office. And it'll be like they were trying to do to Charlie Kirk before he was assassinated. Hey, we gave you millions of dollars. You need to toe the line. And Charlie Kirk is like, well, I'm my own man. I'm not going to be your boy. And I think that's why he was killed. And the same goes for political endorsements and deep pocket money. So I believe Americans should reject, as far as I'm concerned, if a candidate takes any foreign money or takes any large dark money from some PAC somewhere and won't tell you who they are, I don't care how good he looks, you should reject that candidate, because there are going to be strings attached to his back. He'll be a puppet.
Yeah, and I think that's the betrayal that people are feeling. And frankly, that's why I'm running for Congress myself, is because For so many years, I feel like our government, especially during COVID, I was let down. I think a lot of people felt let down. It was just unbelievable. Here in Texas, even we could have done better. We could have done better to push back on some of this stuff. I'm still seeing people driving around in their cars by themselves and they're wearing a mask. The amount of mental damage that has been done with COVID-19 is
Right.
unbelievable. We don't even know what it's done to kids who, in their formative years, were conditioned and forced to do all kinds of crazy things. And at the end of the day, it seems as though we were pushed a narrative that you have to take the vaccine, or if you're not a real player, you're not a real American. And the recklessness of the statement is we find out now that these vaccines, we really don't know the damage long term, because these people were out saying that there's no side effects really. Don't worry about it. Just close your eyes and trust something that's experimental. And now there's a lot of people, my friends included, who did, some of them, take the vaccine because they were forced to in order to keep their football jobs or their coaching jobs and stay with their students. They're saying, just one was out last summer with me on my boat out in Lake Ray Hubbard. They were saying, I feel like a different person. Ever since I did that, I feel I'm not the same person. I'm having issues. And I feel as though there's something going to be really, really significantly wrong with me as I get older. And so he has an emotional issue to live with for the rest of his life. He's like, something invaded my body. It's like I've been almost like sexually assaulted because I have some sort of vaccine inside of me and I can never get it out. And the mental anguish that has happened. And why? Because we didn't have people stand up in leadership positions to defend our people. And I think if anybody's looking for somebody to just be a pawn or a puppet, you're going to find plenty of them. But if you want somebody that's going to be able to challenge the system, you're going to have to look for somebody that's not taking dark money, because that's where your independence is. And across the country, unfortunately, the deck is pretty stacked in favor of dark money because institutions really rule more than the citizens, and we're kind of zoo animals that live in a zoo behind bars that we don't really understand. And we think we're free and we think we have autonomy, but really, we really have very little autonomy. And right now we're comfortable living in a zoo. But Stuart, I just worry a day will come where our zoo is not as comfortable, and we live under a much more harsh reality where these creature comforts that we think we enjoy are taken away, and we go to a social credit system, or we have to submit to environmental climate change rules. And all of a sudden, freedom that we thought we possessed, just like during COVID, it's gone. It's gone because we saw how quickly freedom left in COVID and how quickly a pandemic just came in and ripped freedom away. Where now all of a sudden we had to shut up, we had to put on our masks, we had to stand 6 feet apart, we couldn't be out at bars past 10, we couldn't get our hair cut, we couldn't go, and ladies couldn't get to the grocery store in some cases, and in some states they had to have a vaccine card like we're in Nazi Germany. So
Well, I
the
think
hand
that
of tyranny
experience,
has
though.
shown itself that it can happen in this country. And because of that, I'm running for Congress because I'm there, just like my grandfathers who fought in World War II, who gave up their 5 years of their best part of their lives to go fight and protect our country. Because as Ronald Reagan said, we're one generation away from losing freedom.
Absolutely, and that's what the blessing, though, silver lining, is that after COVID, I meet so many people across the country when I speak everywhere that say that COVID was their big red pill moment that woke them up. I think it's more difficult for the bad guys to pull the wool over our eyes anymore. But back to fighting dark money. But the way Ron Paul did it is he got mom and pop donations from all over the country, just like Thomas Massey right now. He's getting donations from all over the country, and Doc Pete Chambers is getting grassroots donations. I know the same is true for you. You're not taking dark money and PAC money. You're getting small mom and pop donations, but like Trump, you're also throwing in your own money. So what I would tell viewers is, do not support anyone who's taking foreign money. Don't support anyone who's taking big PAC money. You either need to be independently wealthy, they can do their own thing like President Trump did or like Paul's doing, or they need to be such a firebrand that they're getting donations from like mom and pop donations like Doc Chambers is getting. So that's what you need to look for, is someone that's principled, and you should not send anybody to Washington that's not a hardcore constitutionalist. We don't have time to mess around. And so I like to look for someone that has proved up, like Doc did when he was working for the Texas National Guard and refused to advise his men to get that experimental shot. He told his men the truth. It's experimental. You're under no duty to take it. You're under, in fact, under the Nuremberg Code, it's illegal for them to experiment on you. And his men would not take it. Only 3 out of like 10,000 men took it. And that's why Doc had to then retire from the Army. But he was willing to do that and take the heat. So look for someone with courage that's willing to take the heat, and that's who you should support. And if you have any doubts about their loyalties, don't support them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say, as angry and just unacceptable that drop boxes, ballot boxes are in blue cities not having voter ID, and those things infuriate me. I would actually submit that after doing some research and looking at things and experiencing some things and connecting dots, I would say that dark money is more of a threat to our republic than anything else, because those
I'd
things
say both, right? I mean, you have to have clean elections, and you shouldn't have hidden puppet masters. We're running out of time. I want to thank Paul for coming on. The last thing I want to say is free Tina Peters. Ivan Raiklin and I have been pounding our table about this. It's ridiculous for President Trump not to just go free her. She's a material witness to the election fraud of 2020 by the state of Colorado, along with others across the country. And President Trump should send the U.S. Marshals and DHS and go rescue her as a material witness and save her life, because the deep state is afraid of her testifying against them. And so I just want to encourage everyone to support her and pound the table and burn the phone lines up to your representatives and to President Trump and encourage him to take his power in his own hands. But I want to thank Paul for coming on today. And I do wish him luck. He has to get over the hurdle for a runoff. And, God willing, he'll make that hurdle, and then he'll have until May 25th. So good luck to you, Paul, and God bless you, brother.
Stuart, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it. Everybody, tomorrow is voting day here in Texas. Please turn out. We need to have people represent the elections. We need turnout, and let's crusade against dark money, and let's back our Constitution, and let's keep our country free. So God bless.
Amen. Well said. All right, folks. Hey, it's been an honor to talk to you again with InfoWars. I always love coming on. Alex and his crew are fantastic. I've known them for decades now, and they are the real deal. So God bless you, and be strong. Duty is ours, results are God's.
I am cutting this announcement to our VIP members and for the great customers at thealexscore.com on Monday, March 2nd. Coming up this Friday at the 6th at midnight is the last day to exclusively go to the sister site, realalexshows.com, where you can exclusively get products not available at thealexscore.com, like T3 iodine, which is the original X2 formula, the true pure iodine that nobody else has, but even better, even stronger, upgraded. The new product is T3. If you think methylene blue is powerful, it works in similar ways, but it is essential. Methylene blue is not essential. You don't die without it. You die without iodine in a few months, ladies and gentlemen. And it's the #1 cause of cognitive disability out there. So I want to challenge all of the great supporters of the AlexJonesStore.com to go over to RealAlexJones.com and take advantage of T3 iodine and other special deals and other products that they hold back, like special knives and t-shirts and things like that are only available at RealAlexJones.com. So I want to thank all the VIPs. Until Friday, if you're a VIP at thealexstore.com, it's the same shopping cart that recognizes you. You get 50% off at checkout on T3 and a bunch of other great sales. And for everybody else, 25% off exclusively at realalexjones.com. Thank you so much for your support and being the reason we're on the air. These are incredible products you're missing out if you don't get them, so get them now.